Family law proceedings. Family law proceedings involve the following types of cases: petition for dissolution of marriage, also known as a divorce, petition for legal separation, petition for nullity of marriage, and complaint to establish paternity, also known as a parentage case. Types of requests for orders and proceedings. There are three types of orders. First, emergency immediate orders. Now, these are different from a domestic violence restraining orders. Second are temporary orders. And third are permanent orders. Requests for emergency immediate orders. If a party wants immediate orders, such as a non-domestic violence restraining orders, the requesting party must go to court and convince the family law judge that a legitimate emergency exists. I will use the term immediate and emergency interchangeably. These emergency orders are separate from a request for temporary orders. If successful, the court will issue emergency restraining orders or other orders until a formal hearing on the emergency orders occurs. Emergency orders are generally needed in the following situations: restraining orders to stop a parent from taking the children out of the state, restraining orders to freeze bank accounts so that one party will not clean out the accounts, hearing on initial emergency orders. If the family court issues emergency orders, the family court is required to hold a hearing on those emergency orders within 21 to 25 days. The emergency orders are effective until the hearing on those orders. Sometimes the party seeking the emergency orders cannot serve the other party. The court will issue another court date and reissue the emergency orders to be in effect until that new court date. Emergency orders for domestic violence. Attention! You can also obtain certain types of emergency orders under a separate domestic violence case. Separate domestic violence case. Generally, if there is domestic violence, the victim will file a domestic violence case and seek immediate restraining orders separate from the divorce or paternity case. The domestic violence case is normally merged or consolidated with the family law case if they are occurring at the same time. Requests for temporary orders. To obtain temporary orders, the party seeking such orders, i.e. the moving party, will submit paperwork in support of the orders, called a request for order, or RFO for short. When the paperwork is filed, the court will assign a date for a hearing to be held in court for the court to decide on the request asked for in the RFO. Temporary orders. The most common type of temporary orders concern the following issues: child custody and visitation, child support, spouse support, and property use and control. Multiple temporary orders. You can have a series of temporary orders over time before a case has been resolved by a judgment of dissolution of marriage or a judgment of paternity. Family court services. If custody is contested, the parties will be sent to a family court service counselor to attempt to come up with an agreement between the parties. Permanent orders. Permanent orders are issued in a judgment of dissolution or paternity. The permanent orders or judgment comes at the end of the family law case after either a trial or an agreement by the parties or a combination of both. As stated, a judgment of dissolution or paternity is entered by only two methods. First, after a trial held before a judge who makes a ruling known as a judgment, and two, in an agreement that the parties ask the judge to enter as a judgment. In a divorce, a final agreement between the parties is called a marital settlement agreement, which is abbreviated into the acronym MSA. In this diagram, you see how emergency orders, temporary orders, and permanent orders work together. Procedural phases. After one party files a summons and petition, or a summons and complaint, and the other party files a response, there are normally 3 procedural phases that follow. First, a request for orders, also known as RFOs, phase, requesting an initial hearing to obtain temporary orders that will tide the parties over until an entry of a final judgment. This RFO phase may also include emergency orders. 2, a discovery phase, where the parties discover all the facts regarding custody, income, and assets surrounding the case. And 3rd, a trial or settlement phase leading to a final judgment. Takeaways. In family law, there are 3 types of orders: emergency orders, temporary orders, and permanent orders, also known as a judgment. In family law, there are normally 3 procedural phases: an initial hearing phase to obtain temporary orders, which may include emergency orders, a discovery phase, and a trial or settlement phase that leads to a judgment of dissolution or paternity.